Hi guys and welcome back to the Toffee Blues. My name is Cameron. You've seen me a couple of times over the last couple of weeks doing the quiz and the watch along last week with James. I'm here today with Jordan and we're going to talk about Jordan Pickford. And obviously he's been in the news over the last couple of days. There's been a supposed bid or contact made by Chelsea as to supposedly want to bring Jordan Pickford there. And we're just going to have a general conversation about him since he's joined Everton. We know there's a lot of fans that have probably gone past the point of no return for Jordan Pickford. However, I think there is definitely positives to talk about. Obviously, he come in, he done really, really well. We're going to talk about the World Cup as well in 2018 because I think that was a massive turning point in his career and potentially a turning point with his attitude as well, some would argue. So we're just going to talk about him in general as well, obviously off the back of that supposed contact made by Chelsea. Just to start off, again, this is simply my opinion on this. I don't think there's anything in this rumour. I don't see why Chelsea would be going in for Jordan Pickford. I don't see why they'd be going in for another goalkeeper, especially for that price. After bringing in Kepa for, I think it was a record fee for a goalkeeper, 70 odd million pounds. I don't see why they'd be after another goalkeeper, and if so, they definitely wouldn't be after someone that would cost them another 60, 70 odd million pounds. But it's in the news, so it's definitely worth talking about. So how are you today, Jordan? How are you, mate? How are you getting on in this isolation times, weird times?
Yeah, I'm alright, mate. I'm off work at the minute, so just doing a bit of gardening and that, really.
That's it. Keeping yourself entertained.
Right.
That's it. That's all you can do, innit? You've got to keep your mind active. I'm a sucker for saying it, but then I find myself locked in my room for hours on end playing Call of Duty or whatever, and then next minute I'm like, oh, I need to get out, I need to do something here. But just on Jordan Pickford, how do you feel about him then? Obviously, since he come in summer of 2017, he come in under Ronald Koeman. It was that summer when we brought Klassen in as well, and it was, there was a massive good feeling around Goodison Park, around Everton Football Club. The players that sort of come in around this time and didn't end up lasting for one reason or another, but he is obviously still at Everton. How do you feel about Jordan Pickford? Do you think some of the criticism is worthy, or are you a fan of him?
I am personally a fan of Pickford. I like him, but I wrote down all the negatives before and all my positives, and they sort of counter each other.
Yeah.
Because one negative, for example, would be where he's saved us a few times in games, and then the negative of that is he's put us back on the back foot again by making a mistake. So, but I do like him. I do. I think he's a brilliant shot stopper. I just think if he irons out these mistakes, he's one of the best keepers in the league, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So he's just got to iron out these mistakes, really.
No, I agree, spot on. I think inconsistent's a massive word to describe Jordan Pickford, and it's mad because Evertonians, coming from Everton fan base, I grew up most of my childhood watching Everton. Obviously, after Nigel Martin left was Tim Howard, and Tim Howard was another goalkeeper who we knew for being a fantastic shot stopper, but at times his decision making was simply unexplainable to a fan. You were sitting there thinking, why has he done that? What's he done that for? And I think Jordan's, the same. You're spot on. If he did iron out those mistakes, he could 100% want to be one of the best goalkeepers in this league, I think, because those saves that you mentioned him making, they do keep us in the games. And I remember he made one against Palace, Christian Benteke, from about 3 yards out, and he just made himself absolutely massive, and he ended up saving it. But like you said, the counteracting point there is half an hour before that, he let one go under him from Christian Benteke for arguably the worst shot I've seen all season. So there is that inconsistency there, and he does need to get his head down. And I think, above anything, he needs to recognise that there's that inconsistency. He needs to recognise that he's not the best goalkeeper in the world. He's not all there yet. Yes, okay, he might be England #1, but realistically, the England team isn't full of absolute amazing footballers either. They're superstars by the mere fact that they play for England, but they're not all 10 of the best or 11 of the best footballers in the world. And I think as soon as he understands that, and he understands that he needs to get his head down, I think he can be one of the best goalkeepers. And obviously Ancelotti's come in over the past couple of months, and I think Ancelotti's the perfect manager to be able to sit down with Jordan Pickford and say, listen, I've seen some goalkeepers in my time, Iker Casillas, some of the best goalkeepers to ever, I suppose he's been around Buffon as well at various different clubs, some of the best goalkeepers to ever play the game. If anybody is going going to make Jordan Pickford sit down and go, okay, I need to look at these mistakes, I need to iron out these, I need to work on how to improve, it's going to be Carlo Ancelotti. And that's why I wouldn't jump the gun to just sell him yet, because I think if he can iron out those mistakes, he can be one of the best goalkeepers in the league, like you said. How do you feel about Carlo Ancelotti coming? Do you feel the same as me? Do you think that Carlo will be a massive factor in him improving his game and him getting his head down and him being, maybe not less confident but less arrogant, I'd say, at times? Because I do think there's times where he makes mistakes and he sort of thinks, oh, whatever it is, I'll improve, I'll get better. But it's all good saying that. It's it's only well and true if you get your head down and you make those mistakes and you rectify those mistakes. Sorry.
Well, if Carlo can't do it, I don't know who can, to be honest, mate. Because, like you said, he's worked with the best keepers in the world in the past 20 years, hasn't he? So, like, it's a fine line Jordan's got between confidence and cockiness. Yeah. He just needs to find that middle ground, because, it's all right being confident and stuff, but you can mix that with arrogance, and I think that's a massive downfall of his game. He really does need to just get his head down and realise now that, like you said, he isn't perfect as a goalkeeper, but he does actually think he is. And I don't know if being England number one has got to his head a little bit, because when we signed him, I think he's gone slightly downhill the last year or two since we signed him. And I don't know if that's because, like I said, he's become England's number one and that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But he definitely needs to just find that medium level of confidence and cockiness, and just, don't go too over the edge on either side of it, really.
Yeah, spot on. I agree, and we'll talk about that World Cup in just a second, and the whole process to becoming England number one. And obviously, he joined in the summer of 2017, and I think in that season following, he was probably one of the bright sparks in what ended up being quite a disastrous season. Obviously it was inconsistent for Ronald Koeman. It went well and it didn't go well, and he had a really, really good first season. Obviously that was why Gareth Southgate ended up taking him to the World Cup. He went to the World Cup in 2018, fully deserved, and he put on a fantastic show at the World Cup as well. And again, sorry to make this comparison, a little bit like Tim Howard in the 2014 World Cup. He had a fantastic World Cup, and whereas the Tim Howard case, Everton sort of thought, we'll keep him for another season, and maybe we might be able to get another fantastic season out of him, and it didn't quite work. With Jordan's case, it almost felt like you said, that fine line between confidence and cockiness, which every footballer has. You have to be confident, but you can't overbelieve your own ability and make yourself think that you're better than what you are. I think he sort of tipped over that after the penalty save and after the Colombia game, and when the whole nation was sort of focused on Jordan Pickford being the hero in that situation. And I think it's really, really weird in terms of what's happened since then with the media and with the general perception of Jordan Pickford. It seems to have sort of flipped on his head. He was a hero in that summer, and he was, England fans were screaming his name all around the world, and I think he sort of all around the country, and I think he sort of took that and he used that as to maybe a little bit of, I am the real deal, I am the big thing, I have had a fantastic World Cup. Obviously, when it hasn't gone quite well, you've seen that flip straight away with the fans of Everton as well, but fans of England and the general public have flipped that perception on Jordan Pickford, and it's not, we'll give him a chance, he's only young, because he is still only young. He signed a massive contract very recently. Jordan Pickford's a goalkeeper that we could have realistically for the next 10, 12 years at the highest level. He's still very, very young, and like I said, when you're right, he come in 2017, he had a good season, he went to that World Cup, and it almost seems like it's gone a little bit pear-shaped since then. And I actually agree. I think from when we signed him to where he is now, I think he's probably declined slightly, and I don't know whether that is because of the World Cup, the effect it's had on England. I've seen multiple interviews with Jordan Pickford, and I've heard him speak multiple times about how he doesn't feel like he's too confident, or he doesn't feel like he's too cocky, or he knows that he makes mistakes, and it's all well and good hearing that, and it's all well and good seeing him say that, but on the pitch, that's the perception that he gives us, that he's letting that confidence get to him a little bit too much. So do you agree with me then in terms of the World Cup? Do you think that was a massive sort of turning point in his career? And from an Everton side, from an Everton fan's point of view, obviously it's turned into a negative, because he seemed to be making more mistakes than he once did. And yet, okay, you make a world class save, but for me, I want Jordan Pickford to be having, if he plays 10 games, I want 9 of them to be full of world class saves, and maybe one of them at the most there being a slight error in.
The thing is, with the World Cup, you've got to remember, I think it was like 2 games in, people were starting to blame Pickford for things that weren't even his fault, like goals that were going in that he probably couldn't have saved. And a lot of people were asking for the other fella to be in goal. I forgot his name from what's his name?
Butland.
Butland, yeah. A lot of people were shouting for Butland to be in. And next minute, he just totally shut all them people up with that unbelievable save from Colombia, and then he won us the penalty shootout. So I don't know if it's gone from one extreme low to a one extreme high for him, and that's affected him.
Yeah.
But like you said, after the Palace game, he was just like, "Oh, I don't let it affect me and all. I just get on with it." But a lot of people, mate, are telling you the same thing. Sometimes you've got to listen. You know, I think he just sort of believes in himself a little too much. You know, I don't know if it is the World Cup that's done that, but it seems to be since then. He's made a few more ricks than he used to. So it's hard. It's a hard one to put your finger on. But like, I just hope that he does iron out these mistakes, because there is a fantastic keeper in there. There really is.
Yeah.
No, some of the saves he makes, I just look at it and go, "How the hell did he save that?"
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely, I agree. And maybe, like you said, there is that zero to hero sort of switch in the matter of, you know, days, weeks, where he's gone from people blaming him and people telling him that, you know, he shouldn't be in, you know, he shouldn't be England's number one, to having that hero status and ultimately proving those people wrong. If there's anything we know as football fans, is that football fans in general can be very, very naive. Certainly England fans as well. We've seen that since the World Cup in regards to Jordan Pickford. But I agree. I think, you know, when he's coming out and he's saying, "I know what I need to do, and I know I need to do this, and I just get on with it," I think you'd almost want him to come out and say, "Yeah, I probably do need to sit down. I probably do need to look at that a little bit more. I probably do need to work on that. I was at fault there." Instead of coming out and saying, "Well, yeah, but I know what I need to do," just go, "Well, maybe I don't know what I need to do, and maybe I need to work with the manager, the coaching staff, the training team to find out what I need to do." I think that'd give Everton fans a little bit more time for Jordan Pickford, because we understand that people make mistakes, especially goalkeepers. If there's any fan base in the world that knows about goalkeepers making mistakes, it's Everton Football Club. All through the years, ever since Nev, really, every goalkeeper prior to Nev has had his moments. You know, Nigel Martin potentially as well, but certainly Tim Howard had his games where you looked and you think, what's he doing there? But then he had other games where he made absolute world class saves, and you know, the World Cup obviously being a tournament where he was fantastic in as well. So I agree. I think, you know, maybe Jordan does need to step back and realise, you know what, maybe I do need to listen to the fans, maybe I do need to, because we're not saying it to just get on his back, we're not saying it for the sake of it. You know, there'll be a lot of Everton fans in the comments today or watching this video that as soon as they read this bid from Chelsea, I tweeted it out and there was loads of people, get rid, ship him, you know, get him out the club straight away. And it's like, if he can sort that, I don't know whether it's an attitude or whether it's a confidence that he needs to just tone down a bit. If he can sort that out, he can be a genuinely fantastic goalkeeper. And if he come out and he went, "Listen, I've made mistakes, I need to get my head down and I need to work on that," then I think Everton fans would have a lot more time for him, because, you know, we've recognised that he has recognised that. So obviously it leads us to today, to you know, prior to the lockdown, and you know, Jordan Pickford's had an inconsistent season, which probably sums up his time at Everton so far. I've just read the stat there in the comments. He's got a save percentage of 62.3% this season, ranking him 22 out of 24 Premier League goalkeepers, and that's courtesy of DA_Hughes_ on Twitter. So obviously, you know, the 24 goalkeepers in the league, he's 22nd in terms of his save percentage, which isn't great. But I've cast my mind back to last season under Marco Silva, a time when, again, another inconsistent season, another season where we didn't really show to be playing any good football until the back end of it. I think I remember reading a status that he was like fourth highest goalkeeper in the league for clean sheets at one point in that season, and it was only the likes of Alisson, Ederson, and I think Kepa who were above him or on par with him. I even think De Gea was below him, Lloris was below him. All the other goalkeepers that were said to be up and coming and the next big thing were below him for that. Obviously he hasn't had his greatest season this season. We've seen a number of mistakes. Whether you could blame him for the goal against Newcastle at Goodison Park where he's standing behind his line, I don't know. Certainly the goal against Crystal Palace. And one thing I want to ask you is that, you know, he's always got an answer, Jordan Pickford, hasn't he, when he concedes a goal or when he makes a mistake. It's never just, "Listen, I made the mistake, I was caught there." The one against Palace was, "My foot dug into the ground and I couldn't quite move my foot." You know, the one against Newcastle, I think it was just a hectic situation and he couldn't get his bearings. Do you feel that, like I've said, that, you know, maybe he does need to just accept it at times and maybe just needs to come out? And do you think that those Evertonians that are very much set on get him out the club and sell him at the moment and take the bid and take the offer if it's you know, an official offer. Do you think that could be flipped, and do you think he's almost not what I've said past the point of no return with Evertonians if he was to come out and say, listen, I need to just iron out on those mistakes? Or I know me and you are both in the same boat and we feel like, you know, there's still a fantastic goalkeeper in there if we can get it out of him. Do you think that the Evertonians that aren't thinking like that can be switched? Or, you know, obviously we can be quite a naive fan base. How do you feel about that?
Well, first of all, what I'm going to say is when he's saying his foot stuck in the ground and all that, I think I seen a stat on Match of the Day just before all this lockdown happened, and him and De Gea are top for mistakes. Yeah. Like, I think they had that have led to goals, like 7 and 7. Both of them had 7. It's like, well, why is your foot stuck in the ground, Pickford? You know, like, what? Other keepers aren't letting this happen, you know what I mean? I'm not going to fully blame him for that Newcastle goal. I remember watching it back and it was just a second they had to get in position. Yeah. But that Crystal Palace one is definitely one. There's a few over the season. And what I'll say to them Everton fans who are, you know, all entitled to your opinion, of course, you know, I don't blame anyone for actually saying that they'd sell him, to be honest, because it's a bit of a hard question, this one. But if we said, if Pickford irons out 90% of his mistakes, would you keep him then? I'm sure a lot of them would say yeah. Like you said, if he was given 9 out of 10 games, but it's just that question of if he's gonna do it, and he's really gotta admit to his mistakes because that's the only way he's gonna rectify them.
That's it, spot on. And another comment there that I want to dive into is the Toffee Blue said that means 2 number 2 goalkeepers are ahead of him, which is quite worrying, just to think that 2 goalkeepers that aren't even there, just the starter goalkeepers for their club, are ahead of Jordan Pickford on that save percentage stat. And it leads me into talking about number 2s and you know, goalkeeper cover, etc, etc. And we talk about Jordan Pickford and whether, you know, there's a potential that he could leave in the summer. And obviously we know if Jordan Pickford did leave in the summer, we would have to bring in a replacement, whether that be Donnarumma from AC Milan or, you know, any, you know, the various other goalkeepers that we've been linked with, certainly in the past sort of few months or so. I think one thing Evertonians sort of, you know, haven't realised is, like we spoke about before we went live, is there's a lot of positions on the field that need filling before we even look at selling somebody like Jordan Pickford. Okay, Jordan Pickford mightn't be the perfect performer at the moment. You know, we may need to look at his mistakes. He may need to sit down with the coaches and iron out his mistakes. But there's positions on the field that really need addressing as soon as possible, because we simply haven't got a player who we would deem good enough to play in that position, or we haven't got any cover in that position. But in terms of just goalkeeper itself, personally for me, going into this transfer window, taking away Pickford's performances and any potential bid for Pickford, I think we need a goalkeeper anyway. I seriously think we need a second goalkeeper, a backup goalkeeper who is good enough to push Jordan Pickford, and maybe that's what he needs, and maybe that's the issue he's had in, you know, with the World Cup and at England, is that, you know, there was strong shouts for Jack Butland to come in, but realistically, Jack Butland isn't on the same level as Jordan Pickford. Maybe, you know, we might see it in the England setup when he goes away with the Euros eventually, if that does happen, and you've got keepers like Nick Pope or Henderson who are playing fantastically. But I just think we need a second keeper, because let's be perfectly honest, Martin Stekelenburg isn't anywhere near Jordan Pickford in terms of ability. Stekelenburg has had the best days of his career. He's played in World Cups. He's been part of those squads. He's here now to be that experience and to almost act like a coach, really. A coach that may have to play, you know, on occasion. And Jonas Lersel obviously was only here for, a year? Something like that, if that. And then he's gone back out on loan, and he might even potentially be here next season. I'd want us to go out and bring in a backup goalkeeper, but not even with the view of it being a backup goalkeeper. Go and bring in another goalkeeper and say, you two are fighting for number 1 position now. And I know that's very hard, because Man United have got it fantastically. They've got David De Gea and they've got Sergio Romero. I think Sergio Romero is a good enough goalkeeper to be number 1 in most Premier League sides. So they've got that competition there. They've also got, you know, Henderson, who's coming back from loan as well. So they're doing quite well in the goalkeeper sort of position. And it's tough, because it's tough in this day and age with footballers. You're not going to get many footballers if you go out and say, we want to bring you in, with the idea of you basically sitting on the bench and you basically, you know, only coming in on cup games. Or even with an outfield player, you know, not many outfield players are going to join a club on the basis that they're not going to be playing first team football consistently. So I don't know how Marcel Brands would work that, but I just think we need another goalkeeper to give Jordan Pickford a kick up the arse and to give him, you know, a bit of competition, because I seriously don't think there's any competition in this Everton team. What do you think? Do you agree?
Yeah, totally. Stekelenburg just isn't good enough to even probably be a third choice keeper in my opinion. But we definitely need a new keeper. Like you said, with the competition, Liverpool have got it with that. Obviously, Alisson is a better keeper, but they've got a keeper they can bring in who's quite decent, and he was part of the West Ham first team for a while. So definitely need to bring in a decent backup keeper instead of worrying about selling Pickford and bringing 2 keepers in, because, like you said, there's other positions on this field that need addressing first, especially in the middle of the park for me.
Yeah.
And probably a right back position as well, because I don't want to go off subject, but personally wouldn't sign Sidibe. So we need to look at that. There's just other things we need to worry about when Pickford is not the biggest, weakest link in this team.
Exactly. Spot on. And like you said, if we were to sell Pickford, we definitely wouldn't be bringing in 2 goalkeepers. We'd bring in a replacement for Pickford, and that'll be it. And then that just leaves us in the situation that we're in now. But I agree. Right back, centre midfield, attacking wise, centre attacking midfield. Could even say right wing. Some would say a replacement for Garner still needed. There's a lot of positions on the field that Carlo Ancelotti needs to look at as a matter of urgency, and I just don't think he sees Jordan Pickford as one of those positions. And I spoke about this yesterday on the Mighty Blues, and I said that Carlo Ancelotti's come out since he's joined Everton and he's praised an awful lot of Everton players. He's praised Jordan Pickford, he's praised Sigurdsson, and I said, as much as I trust Carlo Ancelotti and as much as I believe what he says, we also have to take into consideration is that when he's asked direct questions about players, he's not going to come out and say they're not good enough or they can't do a job, because realistically that would just create a negative feeling. It would create a negative vibe in the dressing room, and that's not going to happen. But I honestly, when he was speaking about Jordan Pickford and when he said he trusts him and when he said, he thinks he can be, a fantastic goalkeeper going forward, I actually believed in what he was saying, and I think Carlo knows that if he was to replace Jordan Pickford at some point in the future, I don't think it's going to be this summer, because there's other positions that need replacing and need sorting out as a matter of urgency before goalkeeper. So before we get into the
other people who I was just going to say, there's other people who spoke highly of him as well, who've worked with him, like Gareth Southgate. He was adamant that he was staying number 1 in that World Cup. Chris Kirkland come out and said he's the best keeper I've ever worked with. So a lot of people speak highly of him who've worked with him and stuff, and
that's it.
I've seen him on the training field.
That's it, mate. That's it. And I was at an Everton night at the Empire a couple of months ago, around January time, I think it was. With Neville Southall was there, and Neville Southall was the last thing he talked about in a 2-hour night, and he was asked about Jordan Pickford, and I remember sitting there thinking, this is going to be boss this, because there's no cameras, there's nothing here, there's just loads of Evertonians, 3 legends, and he's being asked a direct question about Pickford, and he's very, very honest person, very, very honest ex-player. Neville Southall also thought he's going to give us honest opinion here, and I think a lot of fans in the crowd, the question was asked by a fan, it went out to a Q&A, and the question was asked, and as soon as it was asked, what do you think about Jordan Pickford, do you think we should keep him, do you think he's good enough, the whole crowd gasped, and I think everybody was waiting for a bit of a rant or a bit of a tirade from Neville about Pickford, but he literally sat down and said he can be a very, very, very good goalkeeper, and he is a very, very good goalkeeper. He just needs to be more consistent and get his head down a little bit more. And I think the term he used loosely, don't quote me directly, but he said something along the lines of stop being a TIT and get your head down and work hard. But the premise of that conversation was that Neville Southall, who was one of the, if not the best goalkeepers to ever grace the footballing pitch, has said that he sees things in Jordan Pickford that he could go on and be a fantastic, a fantastic goalkeeper consistently. And obviously that leads us on to the bid. Tuto Mercato Web, again, probably not the most the most reliable source, but they rumoured a couple of days ago that Chelsea were interested in Jordan Pickford for around €50 million, and that they may have even initiated contact with Everton for Jordan Pickford, or initiated contact with the player. I just want to put it out there to you, something I've just literally thought about off the top of my head now. If that was true, and let's say that they were interested in him, do you think Jordan Pickford did consider leaving Everton? If we flip it, rather than do you think Everton would sell, do you think that Jordan Pickford would consider a move away?
I think he would go to Chelsea if he got the choice, yeah. But one thing that makes me think he might want to stay is working with Ancelotti.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think he'd snap up the chance to join Chelsea, in my opinion. But I don't think it should be for 50 million euros or whatever it is. I think it should be a bit higher than that.
Yeah, it will.
Because if we went to buy Pope or someone, they'd probably want that for him.
Yeah.
So.
No, definitely, it'd be 60, 70, 80 plus, wouldn't it? But I actually agree with you. I think in a perfect scenario and circumstance for Jordan Pickford, if Chelsea sold Kepa, I'm not even going to try and pronounce his last name because I can't. If they sold Kepa and come straight to Everton and say to Pickford and said, we want you as our number one keeper, I think, he'd be looking at going to a side that, let's be honest, at the moment are challenging for maybe not the Premier League title, but they're challenging for cups. They're in the Champions League consistently, we can say, or have been over the years. They have a quick turnaround with players. They've got a lot of money. They've got a lot of backing. And he would be almost doing a little bit of Ross Barkley done, as getting away from that side of the fan base that are sort of doubting him and having those opinions on him, and he'd be going for a fresh start again, a little bit like Ross Barkley did. I don't think there's anything in the Pickford rumours, and I hope that Jordan Pickford knows that if there's nothing in them, I hope the club come out a little bit like they done with Richarlison. I was really impressed with how they handled the Richarlison situation at the end of January when Sky Sports totally made up, again my opinion, but Sky Sports totally made up that Barcelona are a bit stupid for Richarlison. The club come out straight away and they said no, they haven't, there's been no bid, there's been nothing, and they informed Richarlison that wasn't happening. I hope the club have come out and done the same with Jordan Pickford. But I actually agree with you. So we'll dive into the live comments now. Let's see what everyone's saying. Owen says, get Pickford sold ASAP. Maybe that was right at the start of the season, so maybe we've managed to change your mind, I don't know. Jake says, love listening to Cameron, first time I've seen him on the channel. Thank you very much. I'll be on the Toffee Blues loads. I have been recently and I will be in the future as well. Ian says, I keep saying he's still a kid in goalie years. A year or two we could have a keeper worth 3 times as much as we paid for him. We would have to spend 90 million now to upgrade this position. Again, like we were saying, he's still very, very young and he's got a lot to learn, and like Ian said, we would have to pay an awful lot of money to replace him. We wouldn't get a goalkeeper for 50 million that I think can even give us the inconsistency that Jordan Pickford does. What do you think?
That's another problem, isn't it? If we sell them for like 70 mil, everyone's going to know we've got that much to spend on a keeper, so that we'll probably get overcharged for whoever we went in for.
Exactly, and that's it, and that's another thing.
It's just going to cause. I just think it causes more problems than good for the deals we need to do in the summer, basically.
Spot on, and I think we'd all be in agreement that if we're sitting here in 2 years and Carlo Ancelotti's got a fantastic Premier League, challenging team, competing in the Champions League every year, and we look at that team and it may have, let's just throwing it out there, it may have a Grealish in, or it may have a James Rodriguez in, and it has all of these quality players, and then we still look at that team in 2 years and we think Jordan Pickford's the weak link in this team, then maybe potentially we've sorted out the key issues and we can look at that and go, right, okay, we can address this. But at the moment, like you nailed out the stars of the team, absolutely spot on. It's just not a priority at the moment, and it'd be making a deal happen and almost forcing a deal happen that doesn't need to be done.
Yeah, totally agree.
Go on.
I was going to say, I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
But you start at the bottom where the actual deadwood is, and start upgrading that first before you start upgrading positions that are decent enough.
Yeah, spot on. Aaron says Pickford is the best keeper in Everton. Well, he is, isn't he? Jake says, yeah, Cameron's great. We're getting him in. Joining us for some regular live teams. We've read those 2 stats. What are we saying about backup goalkeepers? That's a good question. Ian says centre-back and 2 centre-mids, first priority. And a right-back, I'd say, as well. Definitely. Would you say that's our first priority, our main priority? What would you say is the main priority in the entire squad, position-wise?
Centre midfield, because there's only really, you could put Andre Gomez in there who'd probably cement the place, and I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, I'm not a massive fan of Gomez. I think we slightly overrate him a bit. I do think he's a very good player, but
I agree.
That position for me, just it's grim, isn't it? When you got like, all right, Snadland's done all right the last couple of weeks that he played before he got injured and that, but we just need better than that now, and we need some creativity in there, someone with legs as well, someone who can get up and down the pitch. Like, I don't want to keep going back to ex-players, but like Garner did, there's just no one like him in that team, and like we miss him. We need someone in there that definitely, and definitely I think Coleman's legs have gone right back as well.
Yeah, definitely.
And yeah, like the comment then, yeah, centre half definitely.
Spot on.
Because I don't know if Keane's gonna last in this team, to be honest. I just don't think he's good enough.
No, I agree. Keane would be one of them on my transfer list to get rid of if we can in the summer. Again, shake hands, say thanks for your time. It hasn't worked, but if we can get 20 odd million for you, 25 million, then move on. Especially how that would work with financial fair play as well. If you're enjoying, by the way, please hit the like button. It only takes a second. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new as well. I agree with you. You're spot on there. I absolutely agree with you. In terms of midfield regarding Andre Gomez, I think the Gomez situation's a mad one because he is the best of our midfield at the moment, but our midfield consists of very, very average midfielders. And I think we need a midfielder that we just demand more out of. For me, Andre Gomez should be in that position, playing for Everton, should be scoring 5 or 10 goals a season, and he's not. And we need more goals from the midfield. We need more goals from the squad because we cannot rely on Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison to score all of our goals. I remember reading a stat out a few weeks ago. Our highest goal scorer this season, when you take away Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin, is Bernard on 3. And I just think that's absolutely shocking.
That's one of the shocking stats I've heard all year, that one.
That's it. It's shocking. It's dreadful. And it only takes... And it's not beyond the realms of possibility for Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin to get, suspended or to pick up an injury at the same time. And if those two are out the squad, we haven't got goals anywhere. We seriously haven't got goals. And behind Bernard, it's Yerry Mina on 2, and he scored them 2 goals within 45 seconds of each other. And then everyone else is on 1 or none. And I think
that's just not good enough. That is it.
That's it. And we're not going to challenge for even Europe. We're not going to challenge with sides like Wolves, Leicester, obviously, who've maybe overachieved this season, but in any other season will be in and around us, or even Sheffield United. We're not going to challenge with those teams if we're relying on 2 players to score goals and nobody else is chipping in. And I agree. I think Gomez is a very, very good footballer. But if we, let's say for example, signed a Jack Grealish or a James Rodriguez and a replacement for Garner because we're desperately lacking it, I think Gomez would look again like a good footballer, but not like as maybe overhyped as some fans was to say that he is. I remember Gomez come in, it was against Arsenal, his first game back, his first start back after his injury, and he was the best midfielder on the pitch. And I remember thinking, this lad's been out through one of the most horrific injuries I've ever witnessed as a football fan. He stepped back in and he's looked like the best midfielder that's played in an Everton shirt since he went off against Tottenham, and that just simply isn't good enough for me.
I totally give up with like the likes of Schneiderlin and Sigurdsson after that Liverpool derby game. I just washed my hands with them. I just thought, you aren't good enough. So
that's it. And if you're not, if you're a player and you're crap, at least give it 150% and make it appear like you're arsed. Whereas I think they're not very good technically. There's a weird one with Sigurdsson because he was madly brilliant last season and he'd score from anywhere, and he had 12 goals last season, and we were coming into this season thinking we need another one of them from Sigurdsson. He scored 1 goal in the Premier League. He scored 2, one of them's a penalty, so I'm totally taking that out. 1 goal in the Premier League, and okay, it was a great goal against West Ham, but it's just not good enough. Billy says Onar or Donnarumma. Onar's another one. Faz says Donnarumma has been my pick long before the rumours. If he comes available in certain circumstances for the right money, it'll be an absolute no-brainer not to get him. What do you think about Donnarumma? Obviously, young AC Milan goalkeeper. I think he's 21 years old, but he's been AC Milan's number 1 since he was about 16, so he's been in goal for AC Milan for quite some time. He hasn't had the greatest season this season, but would you bring him in if he become available for a decent price? And by decent price, I'm talking not £100 million, which is probably what they'd want for him.
That's the problem, innit? That's what he's going to cost. I'm going to admit I'm not a massive knowledgeable on Donnarumma, but I've seen him a couple of times and he was quite decent, but I can't really comment on him too much. I'm not really clued up on the Italian footy scene, to be honest.
Fair enough.
But if you're going to ask me for one on this league, I think Pope would be half decent.
Yeah, I agree. But I think we could potentially have the same issue with Pope, as he might come in and he might have that pressure on him and that stress on him, and then he might make a couple of... When Jordan Pickford come in, we weren't really talking about his attitude or how he's got a bad attitude. We were talking about a quality young goalkeeper who was coming in, who we could build to be one of the best in the league. And I agree with Donnarumma. Listen, I don't know an awful lot about the Serie A or about AC Milan, but I do know that He's been their number one for about 4 or 5 years and he's only 21, which could go fantastic for him. By 23, 4, he might be the best goalkeeper in the world, but it could also go the other way as well. We've seen it so many times where players have just been overplayed at their age. You know, Tom Davies now, as an example, is 21 years old. He's about 3 months older than me, and it's his like 4th or 5th season in the Premier League for Everton. Some 21-year-olds haven't even got a Premier League cap yet, or you know, only just breaking into the teams. You look at, you know, likes of Mason Greenwood at Man United. I think he's a little bit younger. I think he's 19, breaking into their team. But by 19, Tom Davies had scored a wonder goal against Man City, and Everton fans were writing him off because he wasn't doing it every week. So I think the younger you start playing, it can be positive, but it can also flip the other way around as well.
You're looking in goalkeeper terms of an example for that. I think Joe Hart might have been one, because he came through at a really young age, didn't he? And I thought he was the best goalkeeper in the world at one point, and then I think it was about 28 or something, wasn't he? And then Pep just said, nah, see you later. Yeah, and keepers usually go on till about 35.
Yeah, so that was it. And then he went to Burnley, and Burnley thought, and then Burnley just took him out the teams. And I don't even know where he is now, if he's still at Burnley or what he's doing, but you're spot on. And his career very much came to a point where he was at a peak, and then it all sort of come crashing down. And I think that's what we're trying to avoid with Pickford. We ran a poll on Twitter, would you sell Jordan Pickford? Out of 3,957 votes overall, 72% of people said they'd sell him. And I think that sort of goes into that, what I mentioned before, is there a point of no return with Evertonians, where we just get to a certain point and we think, you couldn't do anything on the pitch to make me think otherwise of you. I think that's a little bit harsh, to be honest with you. You know, when you
Calvert-Lewin's an example of turning the fans around, isn't
exactly.
he? I'll hold my hands up now. I was like, you're not good enough for this team, and I did hold on for a bit, and then in the end, I think it was the Bournemouth game last year. I know he scored, but just before that, I was like, you're just not good enough, mate. And he made me eat my words. So
that's it. And it's natural, I think, for us to think that as fans, and a lot of us thought it with Mason Holgate. A lot of Evertonians said, if Mason Holgate's going to make it in this Everton team, definitely not going to be at centre-half, because he's not big enough, he's not strong enough, he's not demanding enough. Comes back from a loan spell at West Bromwich Albion. He has a little bit of a decent spell under Duncan Ferguson, and all of a sudden he's almost demanding centre-half. He's the player that picks the ball up, that uses his body, that uses his strength. He goes into mid. I've never seen a player make a transition from centre-back to midfield as smoothly as he did. He stepped into the midfield and he was our best midfielder on that day, by a country mile. And I think it's natural for football fans to bounce back opinions, and, you know, 1 minute you love the player, 1 minute you want to sell him, because that's just how it works, isn't it? But if Jordan Pickford can adopt, one thing I really, really love about Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and I'm thinking about Mason Holgate as well, is those two players, specifically Dom, because we've seen it with Dom on our very own eyes, because he hadn't gone out on loan. He got his head down and he worked, and he was desperate to make this happen. He was desperate to play consistent football for Everton and work on his ability. Dominic Calvert-Lewin coming as a midfielder, once he was told he was going to have to play up front after that weird spell where he played at right wing back under Koeman, he got his head down and he thought, you know what, I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to work on my ability in front of goal. I'm going to work on where I need to be. Because one of the big criticisms I had of Dom was that he was never in the right place at the right time. He didn't have that natural striker's instinct of, I'm going to be on the end of this ball if the keeper ultimately saves it. He was always just sort of waiting around, and he didn't have the ability, and arguably still now, you don't see him score many one-on-ones. When he's got the ball, with Dominic Calvert-Lewin, when it looks like it's the easiest opportunity for him to score, that's where he struggles. But now he's added to his game that being, on the back post off a corner, or getting onto the end of a rebound, or an header from out of absolutely nowhere. The goal against Arsenal come from absolutely nowhere, and it was a fantastic finish. And again, maybe Jordan Pickford needs to adopt that, get your head down and just work, instead of thinking about, everything else. Do you agree?
I think Dom's probably listened to a few people where Jordan probably doesn't.
Yeah,
but
that's it.
Like, I'm just hoping maybe Ancelotti can do that with him, like he's done it with Dom. So
that's it.
Spot on.
Well, I think we'll leave it there with Jordan Pickford out. We spoke all about him. I think me and Jordan are in the same boat with keeping. We wouldn't sell him, certainly not for £50 million if that rumour was to be of anything. I think that's far too far short of the mark. But I think we'd both keep Jordan Pickford. He's a good young goalkeeper. Yes, he's got a lot of mistakes in him. Yes, he's got a lot to iron a lot out. Yes, his attitude may be a problem at times, and he needs to listen to the constructive criticism he's getting rather than take it as an offence almost. But he's a goalkeeper that on his best day I think is fantastic, and I think when he's making those world class saves, you look and you think, would another goalkeeper in this Premier League who have been linked with make that save? Maybe not. Did it, have a sort of settled it there? Is that, I don't want to speak on behalf of you, is that?
Well, I was just going to say, like, you know, when people criticise him, he shuts them up.
Yeah.
But next time you shut them up, Jordan, keep it at that. You know, don't be giving them another chance to come back at you, because that's what he does. He'll shut them up, and then they'll come back at him for another mistake he makes. Exactly. Just iron them out, and he'll be sound.
Yeah, I agree. Spot on. Let us know what you think on Jordan Pickford in the comments section down below. If you've watched the live stream live and got involved in the live comments, a massive thank you to everybody for getting involved. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe as well. Big thanks for Jordan for joining me today to talk about Jordan Pickford. A little bit of a tongue twister that. If you want to see more of me, if you're interested in more of me, I run the Mighty Blues YouTube channel, so you can come over there. You can check me out. I stream Monday, Wednesday, Friday, every single week. You can come and get involved with various conversations a little bit like this one. Don't forget to subscribe to the Toffee Blues, leave a like on this team, and leave a comment as well. Big thanks, Jordan, for coming on. Anything else to say before we finish up?
No, I've got a channel myself. If you want to throw it out there, it's not an Everton one. No, it's just it's a movie one.
Boss film reviews.
Movie with him.
Boss film reviews. Get over there if you're interested in film. Get over there, especially at a time like this when a lot of people are sitting in their house with not much to do. Get over, go and subscribe to Jordan's channel, go and watch the videos, go and leave him some support, and go and watch the films that he recommends ultimately, because what else are we doing with our time at the moment? Nothing. Big thanks for watching. If you've